Lynn, this next question comes from some of our friends on the West Coast out at Stanford, and they say, Mr. LaRouche, as you know, we were tasked to forge a series of economic policies directed to restore health to the nation's economy. We were told to assume an FDR-type approach to restoring vital sectors of production, rebuilding decayed infrastructure, determining the need for new infrastructure, etc. And although the specifics of dealing with problems of monetary and financial policy were not part of our immediately defined task, it was also made clear that we were expected to also address those issues. Obviously, we had to figure out how to fund the recovery programs we were proposing. For several months, we've been making very significant progress, although that kind of came to a halt these last few weeks when it became increasingly difficult for us to determine if the president still wanted us to proceed with our work. There has been almost no indication that the administration intends to do anything until Wall Street agrees to it. That is certainly not an FDR-style approach. And also, while Wall Street is clearly being consulted, we are not. This led us to forward a question to Washington as to whether or not we should continue our work. The response we received rather quickly was yes, absolutely yes. But this is a very frustrating situation. As a presidential advisory group, we work independently and without compensation. That isn't a problem. When we speak, we do not speak on behalf of the administration, but we are encouraged not to speak publicly for ourselves either. That is something of a problem. The truth is, and I know I speak not only for myself, but for many of my colleagues, these last few months have reminded me why I relocated to the West Coast in the first place. I wanted to get as far away from Washington as I could and still live in the United States. At least he still has a sense of humor. He says, but in all seriousness, the question is, how do we proceed? Should we simply ignore what is going on in Washington and continue to try to forge these policies and analyses, even if it seems, at least right now, that no one is listening? Also, is it your estimate that no one is listening? Is it possible that there is some plan and we just have not been informed of it? Your thoughts on this would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I have a partial response to that of some relevance. I've been watching what has been coming out of Professor James Galbraith, and I have just received recently, which I'm working on, reply to, he wrote a paper entitled A Biophysical Approach to Production Theory, and which has a flaw in it, but he's a clear thinker, as thinkers go in the economics profession these days. And therefore he poses some questions which I think are highly relevant. And what I'm doing in replying to this, as I have in progress here, is to answer this, what I see as the implicit question he's posing, as opposed to maybe what he's actually directly asking. And I think he wants that. He wants to see what I do with his statement. Which the other things I wouldn't bother waste his time with going over a discussion of them, because I think the question comes down to some very specific turning point issues. And that's what we should be doing. I think that you don't need a presidential license to practice thinking. I think, as I've tried to indicate today, I sort of anticipated the situation in the 7 points that I made, is there are certain questions where there's beliefs about economy which are our deadliest enemies of the U.S. economy and world economy today, is what some people believe about economy. And therefore, if we can get that crap out of the system and come back to forget statistics, just forget it. I mean, everything that is going to be said about statistics is said a long time ago. We don't need any improved statistics. It gets worse all the time. I think we went too far. We should have called back, get rid of some of this stuff. And the real ideas are not statistical in nature. Real ideas are breakthroughs. For example, let me explain what I mean by this, because this is what's crucial. We have shibboleths, and it's an academic problem. Yeah, I go through this list of people who come on the list of experts, like the nutcases we were talking about today. There's nothing you can do with these guys. They predominate because they get credit, because where do they get credit from? They get credit from London and they get credit from Wall Street. Why are they professors? Because they can think? No. Because they know how to do what they're told by the people who give them the money. And who is the people who give them the money? Wall Street, similar kinds of things. It's the foundation. American Enterprise Institute and similar kinds of institutions which control the Rothschild in the first decade of the last century started this process of organizing these funds, special funds, the fund for this, the fund for that. And these funds, which are actually an extension of the British Empire, which the Rothschild family of London, or Britain, initiated. So the world economy is largely run by a collection of these kinds of funds and their extension. And these funds are actually they're like pimps. They have professors as whores, and they run trains of them all over the world. And what they're doing is they're working for their living, A girl needs to be paid. You don't even have to be a girl anymore to be paid as a girl. It's all. It could be a dog or anything else. It's here, girl. So we have to recognize that, and everybody who's serious in academia knows it, that you're besieged by all kinds of fakers. David Rockefeller, when he was still able to think, I think, well, not too well, but he could, would travel all around in his airplane. He would pick up ambitious, broken down professor so-and-so here, didn't have enough money, and say, I'll get you $10,000 for a book. You get your next book out there. Maybe we'll do something with you. They bought up these also-ran professors in dozens. They parked them in key positions in universities, like the whole environmentalist crowd. All the so-called environmental scientists are fakers. When a guy says, I'm a physical scientist, and he tells you that there's a free energy policy, that an energy of solar power has the same value as a calorie of a nuclear power, he's called a scientist? You're dealing with a prostitute who promises to love you. So the problem is we've got to admit among ourselves that the university system and the so-called university system and the foundation grant organizations, which is a racket set up by the British Empire and together with Wall Street, is the ideological empire which penetrates and subverts the United States, contrary to its Constitution. As we've seen massively, they bought up the Congress. Our Congress is bought by these channels. The Congress is not independent. Their opinion is not independent. Barney Frank He can't even gibber intelligibly. But he knows how to steal. Huh? So the point is, we've got those of us who think and really care about the country and about the world have to go about our business as I do. You do it because it's the right thing to do and because you enjoy doing it. Try to make something good out of this thing. We should not be deterred by the fact we've got a bunch of fools and worse out there who are occupying the key positions where the decisions are made. It's like the whole environmentalist movement. The whole environmentalist movement is one gigantic anti-scientific fraud. There's not a single bit of truth in any of it. It's a faker. The guy says, I'm an ecologist, a scientific ecologist. You see that? Well, that's better than being a toadstool, I guess, huh? Because they're not worth anything. They're liars. Any guy that tells you, any guy who says, I'm a scientist, and he says this free energy policy is good, you know he's a faker. He's a fraudster. He belongs in prison. He's committing fraud, isn't he? Shouldn't he go to prison? He's committing a fraud which is causing people to suffer. Shouldn't he go to prison? Well, put him in prison. They want to be institutional? Fine. So the problem we face is that we who are serious, whether we agree or not is not the point. The question is whether we're having an honest discussion and a competent discussion of the issues. Those of us who are concerned should just do our work, whether we are blessed or not. And I will bless you if you do it.